Retina display.
Whoa.
What's that?
I just built a budgeting app with Base 44.
So 2025 is a pretty big year for Windows 10. It both turned 10 years old and is going out of support in October. And as we prepare to say goodbye and maybe good riddance depending on who you are, we're going to give it a proper send-off by upgrading through every single version of it over the next couple hours. Hello everybody and welcome back to another iteration of the Windows upgrade saga. We're still doing this thing because you all really seem to like it whenever I sit down in front of a computer for hours on end doing something that no reasonable person would ever need to do. But hey, they are fun to make. I just need to space them out a little bit, which is why it's been a couple years since we did the last one. And there's going to be some changes this time around, mainly because Windows 10 isn't really a single operating system. It's more of an OS family, with 14 versions being released over 7 years. So what I've decided to do is upgrade through all of them. So we're not going to be taking a look at any of the betas or the early developer previews. We're just going to be focusing on the final releases of these operating system versions. And the machine we're going to be using is the Alienware M11X that was sent to me by a viewer named Case a few years back. This has shown up on a few videos on this channel over the years, and it does meet Windows 10 system requirements. So we're going to get started with version 1507, released on July 29th, 2015. So these are, of course, all 64-bit editions of Windows 10, and the ISOs that I downloaded should, anyways, have both the Pro and Home editions on them to where you can choose, so it shouldn't matter what we pick here, so we're just going to say Windows 10 Pro, and if I have to re-download something later, then I guess I have to re-download something, but we'll accept the license agreements, go to Custom. This system currently has Windows 11 on it from this video we made last year, I believe, so we are going to wipe all of the partitions on here and just format the drive as new, or just say next because we can do that as well. And oh my gosh, I'm going to be seeing a whole lot of this over the next however many hours. I don't even know how long this whole video is going to take to make, but I imagine it's going to be, you know, at least a couple hours runtime. We'll see. Because this is actually the most versions of Windows that I've upgraded through in a single video. This even tops upgrading from Windows 1 all the way up to Windows 10. Which at the time when I did that was the latest release of Windows. But, you know, I do think it is going to be a more straightforward upgrade process since we're just upgrading through all these different editions of, you know, the same operating system. My goal is not to spend as much time as I typically would in each of these versions. We are going to kind of go through and I'll talk about some of the new features that were introduced just briefly. And then, of course, we'll mess with the theme and stuff because that's just kind of a staple of these videos to see if that gets retained as we go through the upgrade process. Oh boy, it's time to enter the product key. Except, no it's not, because we ain't doing that. We will get it on the Wi-Fi network though. And ah yes, here's the dreaded Get Going Fast screen that was like a privacy nightmare if you clicked on Use Express Settings. Everybody hated this, and this was, you know, a part of Microsoft's kind of plan, I guess, to turn Windows into a service, you know, and start kind of making money off of user data, because this was a free upgrade. You know, this was not something that you had to pay for if you had an existing copy of Windows 7 or Windows 8. If you wanted to get like just the full copy, you had to go out and buy it. So they had all this like stuff turned on by default that would, you know, share your inking, typing, and speech data to Microsoft. We don't want any of that. No, we don't want apps to use your advertising ID, and no, I do not want Microsoft to see my location. And then you had all this browser crap as well, connectivity and error reporting, no thank you. But I mean, who knows, maybe that stuff doesn't matter anymore because this version of Windows has been out of support for years now. And you know, I just realized something. It says getting critical updates. I hope it doesn't try to update to a newer version, because we did connect it to the internet. I might have to retry this again and not do that because I don't want it to get any updates. I mean, I guess if it gets, you know, if it gets us to the latest point where 1507 was before they killed off support for that. That happened in 2017. That's when the general support ended. So you had 2 years to use this version, and then you would have to upgrade. But of course, all of the subsequent Windows 10 releases were free to upgrade to if you had a valid copy of Windows 10. Oh look, it's time to enter the product key again. This is not a really good sign. Did it just really upgrade to a whole different version here, or are we just experiencing deja vu for some reason and it's going through this whole process again? Well, it didn't ask me for It didn't ask me to connect to the network, so it saved that setting from last time. It's getting more updates. Is it gonna do this all the way to 22H2? That would be hilarious. All right, well, here's a different screen. Who owns this PC? My work or school, or I own it. We'll say I own it, but I don't want to use a frickin' Microsoft account. Skip this step, because you could still do that by this point, and we'll just put in my name, and no, I'm not gonna enter a password. Okay, well, we made it to the desktop. Let me just immediately go into WinVer and see what we got going on. Okay, 10.0 build 10240. That is still the original build for version 1507, so it just probably downloaded a few updates for this particular version, like I said. I am going to go into personalization here because I want to change the picture to something that will show up a little bit better on camera. Was there a... oh yeah, we could just change the Windows accent color. And of course, I also want to set the theme to see if all this stuff will actually stick when we go through the upgrade process for all the other versions. I think we're going to fill up the taskbar with a bunch of obnoxious stuff. We'll do the address bar, and I guess we'll just turn all these on. Links, desktop, you can't even see everything. And then I do want to change the size of the taskbar. We'll lock it back in place, and we'll add some icons and stuff to our desktop. So let's get maybe, let's just unpin weather from start. Let's unpin all this stuff from start because I just do not like this start menu at all. Even on my main Windows 10 system, I still use a third-party start menu tool because I just am not a fan of even the latest iteration of it. Windows 11's, I will say, is a lot better, even though there's a few things I don't like about Windows 11. The start menu is not one of them. And then we can go into the start menu and just, you know, drag a whole bunch of these shortcuts onto the desktop. Pretty meaningless. Oh, we got Skype too. Oh my gosh, rest in peace. What happens when we open... oh, this is Get Skype. There was a problem with Get Skype. Contact your system administrator about repairing or reinstalling. It's not even installed. It doesn't look like it's just a web shortcut. I mean, this is like this Microsoft.Skype app, whatever thing. So that's just not working properly, I guess. Maybe because of one of those updates that it did. But we go into this PC, we've got our local disk and our drive that we had the installer on. I suppose we can rename the hard drive. Let's call this Win10 Upgrade Saga. But yeah, I think we are in a pretty decent spot for this first version here. We've got, you know, the theme all messed up and some icons pinned on the desktop, so we'll see if all that gets kept as we continue on through these versions. We're going to move on now to version 1511. This was also known as the November update because it came out in, well, November of 2015, so just a few months after the initial version of Windows 10. First, though, I need to get that image written to this USB drive here because, yeah, little spoiler alert, this is what we were actually using earlier to go through the installation process. It's what we will be continuing to use because all these DVDs I showed earlier were just props because the later versions of Windows 10 can't actually fit on a single DVD. They're just too large in size. So I actually have all these ISO images stored on my DH4300 Plus from today's video sponsor, uGreen. It's like cloud storage, but hosted by you, so that you're fully in control of your data, you don't have to deal with ever-increasing subscription costs, and it's really simple to set up. It took me, the guy who spent half an hour trying to reset a password on Linux one time, only a few minutes to get this thing hooked up on my network. You plug it in, power it on, go to any old web browser or use your mobile device via NFC, and you'll be up and running in no time. Of course, you'll also need to have some hard drives to pop into this thing, and thankfully uGreen supports a wide range of them for a total of up to 120 terabytes of storage, which is more than you'll ever need. I'm sure that won't age poorly. And thanks to its 2.5 gigabit Ethernet port, the transfer speeds are really fast. I mean, it takes literal seconds to move a 1 gigabyte file off this thing, which you can do from anywhere via uGreen Link. You're able to customize access permissions so that other users can only view and modify the files you want them to. And it comes with some nice extras like their smart album feature for automatically tagging photos to make them more easily searchable. So be sure to click the link below and use the coupon code in the description to get 20% off on the most beginner-friendly NAS there is. And huge thanks again to uGreen for making this video possible. Okay, so this time we actually get a choice. We can download and install updates now or just choose not right now. and I'm going to choose that. And no, I don't want to help Microsoft, thank you very much. We'll just see if we can immediately jump into the install, or if it's going to tell us like, oh, you have to update, you know, Windows 10 more, you have to download some stuff from Windows Update. All right, here's the license terms. Looks like these were not updated, and we are ready to install. All right, so apparently we can change what to keep. So if you wanted to like have it wipe, yeah, your like files and stuff, you could choose nothing, but we're going to keep personal files and apps, and we're off. Well, we're back, and the update did complete successfully, and interestingly, on the desktop here, it did reset the icon arrangement, so it's got everything snapped to the left side here, and the icons for Calculator, Get Started, and Maps have just defaulted to the, you know, default, like, I don't know what this is icon, but the application is still open up, at least Calculator did. Let's see what Get Started, Maps, okay, so they, yeah, open up just fine. But for whatever reason, it did not keep the icon, like, arrangement. Let's see what Get Skype does. This actually opens up now. Okay, look at that. So this is just an app you would open that would give you a download link to Get Skype, which I'm sure is just going to open up Edge and, yeah, now just redirect you to Microsoft Teams, since Skype's not a thing anymore, rest in peace. But it did keep our taskbar super large here like we had it. And if we go into the start menu, it looks like it has kept all of that as well. Desktop wallpaper, of course, theme color and everything. Now, I do want to shout out Beta Wiki here for a second, which is a fantastic resource, not just for Windows betas, but also the final releases as well. I am looking at the pages over on their website for all of these Windows 10 versions to kind of get a summary of what was added and what changes were made. Unfortunately for the Windows 10 November update, this appears to be mainly under the hood changes, not really anything visually that was changed, you know, at least on a major level. They did change the search box here if you have Cortana enabled to say, I'm Cortana, ask me anything, whereas previously it was just a search thing. They also updated some icons. One of those is for the registry editor, so this is actually the modern icon for it, and this is where it was first introduced. And apparently the start menu now, if you wanted to pin things to it, can pin up to 2,048 tiles. If you really wanted to have just a long frickin' list to scroll through. So I think what we're gonna do is try to rearrange this desktop again and just kind of scatter these icons around. We'll get some more things to add here, and then we're just gonna go and upgrade what we already have maps pinned. We'll do tips. We'll do, can we just drag File Explorer here? Yes, we can. We could also make some dummy files, like let me open up MS Paint and just, you know, draw some nonsense here. And then we can save that to the desktop as just untitled.png, because that is wonderful. And we'll go ahead and make a new text document. Give this a name, give it some contents. And so there we go. So we're all set with a bunch of nonsense on our desktop. We'll see if it retains this exact like icon layout when we go through the next upgrade, which I'm currently writing that image right now. So this is version 1607, better known as the anniversary update, because it came out about a year after the original release of Windows 10. So we're going to pop that in. And there were some more, you know, visually noticeable changes introduced in this build, and we'll talk about those once we actually get it installed here. So we're just going to open the contents in File Explorer. Oh, I guess while I'm here, why don't we go to View Options and, yeah, hidden items, and we want to get file name extensions. I also want this to be pinned to the window like that. And we'll just run setup.exe. I imagine that like all of these upgrade procedures are going to be pretty much identical. I mean, I could be wrong about that, but let's see how similar that this looks. And also, by the way, I am kind of keeping track mentally using these DVDs as a visual representation of my sanity, because we are currently through 2 of them, and you can see this is how much I have yet to do, which is going to be just freaking wonderful. So we're going to leave this kind of like right back here so that you guys can see it as well. So we are on our second one, and I will remove a 3rd disk from here when we actually get this next version installed. We're going to once again say no screw the updates, no screw helping Microsoft, They did upgrade the license agreement at this point. Ooh, that's some exciting stuff. All right, looking good. We're going to install Windows 10 Pro, keep our personal files and apps. Yep, this is exactly the same as last time. Okay, well, we are not even 3 installs into this video, and we've already hit a pretty major snag, and that is that we just get to this screen here with this boot loop going around, and it never gets past that. But the interesting thing is, we've got the mouse cursor, and it looks like I'm hovering over things that can be clicked, but like I can't do a Control-Alt-Delete or a Control-Shift-F10 or a Shift-F10, whatever it is, to open up the command prompt. No key combinations work. It's very interesting. Although I wonder, is Control-Delete actually going through? Because like I know the options are in the center of the screen. I was seeing if, because yeah, you see that? Yeah, I just did Control-Delete and the cursor changed to the thinking one for a second. Was that text to highlight, or no, that's a window to resize? So yeah, I don't know what exactly is going on. And I have let it sit like this for over an hour, so I don't think it's just that I'm being impatient. But I think that we are just going to have to go through and do a clean install again. And at this point, I'm just going to install this version that I've already gotten burned on here. I'm not going to start back from the beginning because I have a feeling we would just encounter this problem again. But it's rather surprising that, you know, we're like, this is just upgrading from the 2nd to the 3rd version. This is not like a major jump. I don't know what's going on. This is pretty wild. I wonder if we can repair the installation. Maybe we can boot off of this and do that. That'll be our first course of action. And then if that fails, which it probably will, knowing my luck, we will... Oh, and... Okay, well that was... Did you hear that? It like... I mean, I think the system's running. Like, it would recognize that we plugged in a USB drive and it came up. So it's not like that was going through the boot process. The system had already loaded by that point. I personally have not seen that before. That's rather wild. But let's just see... Oh, no, it didn't even turn off. It looks like you started an upgrade and booted from installation media. If you want to continue with the upgrade, remove the media and click yes. If you want to perform a clean install, click no. Oh, can we not repair it because it's like an incomplete upgrade? I guess we're going to have to say no, because clicking yes will just tell us to remove the thing and just restart the system. So we'll go here, hit next, repair your computer, and let's do troubleshoots. System restore might be an option, because it may have created a restore point before the upgrade. But let's see if we can just do start... Oh, go back to the previous build. That's another option. But let's see if we can do startup repair. Well, no surprise there. It failed to repair our PC. So we're just going to go back to advanced options. And I guess let's see if we can go back to the previous build. Oh, shoot, it worked. Okay. That's awesome. I didn't think that was actually going to work. So yeah, let's see what we're running now. I mean, yeah, we're back to our regular desktop. I'm assuming it put us back to, yeah, 1511. Okay, so that's good. There is a way just to restore that whole thing and, you know, undo the upgrade, basically. So I guess we're going to go in and try that again, but this time I'm going to select to get the updates that it wanted. And I'm hoping this is, again, not going to, like, change the version that it's going to install. I don't really think it would, but I suppose it's not outside of the realm of possibilities. And look at this, download the latest version of Windows 10. We noticed you have older installation files. This is exactly what I thought it was going to do. Or that I didn't think it was going to do, but I thought it might do. It ended up doing that. Although we can say use older installation files down here, which we are going to do. I guess we have a newer version of the installer now. And then it still has to get more updates. Okay, that took a ridiculously long amount of time, but we're here at this same screen. We're going to keep personal files and apps, install, and this is going to take even longer, but let's hope it works this time. Alright, well I got some good news and some bad news. The good news is we did get this build installed so we can move one more DVD over here. Bad news is I did have to go through and do a clean install, wipe the hard drive, because even after doing the upgrades before the upgrade, that still didn't solve the problem. The same thing essentially happened where it was caught on that black screen, and I tried a few troubleshooting methods to get past it and nothing worked. So what I'm going to do differently this time is I did not connect this machine to the network. We're going to keep it offline and not allow it to get any of the updates, and then see if we can just do all of these updates just offline locally and maybe, you know, we'll get a better result that way. I mean, this did not cause a problem the first time, but upgrading to 1607 for whatever reason, I mean, it technically did upgrade, we just couldn't get to the desktop. So we're gonna go into customize and turn all this stuff off. And this is 1607, by the way, just to make that clear. I did not restart this whole process from the beginning. So we are basically breaking the update cycle here. So here we are. One of the big changes in 1607 was the start menu. This was modified a little bit to where you now have just this app list over here on the side. Instead of having to go into like all applications like you did before. And then of course you have your pinned applications over here, which we're probably just going to go in and let's just remove most of these and then find, like, what do you think is the most obnoxious one, like the store app, and we'll make that, you know, super large. And we'll just have that be like the only thing here. And we'll have it under the life at a glance section. God, they really wanted you to use this stupid interface, didn't they? And I just accidentally clicked on that and that's downloading something now. No thank you. So we're pretty much gonna do the same thing, can you guys believe it? And just, you know, customize the OS interface a little bit here. We'll go into our personalization options, set a different wallpaper, all that jazz, you know, make some icons. Why don't we go with one of the high contrast ones? Wouldn't that be fun? I guess we could kind of go through the list here of some of the other things that were changed. So one of the things they did is they revamped the user account control dialog. So like if I want to launch regedit here, this interface you may recognize from Windows 10 today. This is when that was first introduced. Prior to this, you had that like Windows Vista era UAC dialog that just carried over until Windows 8. And then one of the other things we did in the previous install is we renamed the hard drive, so we will do that. Win 10 upgrade Saga 2. Another very welcomed inclusion in 1607, although welcome probably isn't the right word, but active hours for Windows Update, where, you know, you can set the hours you're going to be using the system so that Windows won't just restart when you're in the middle of working to automatically install updates that you can't turn off. And everybody hated that about Windows 10, and now everybody doesn't really talk about it at all because we're all used to it, as these changes tend to go. They introduce a feature everybody hates, everybody complains for a while, it doesn't get changed, people get used to it. You guys know this cycle very, very well. So, yeah, they also introduced the annoyingly named Windows subsystem for Linux beta in this build as well, and that is a feature, of course, that is still in Windows today. So, we've got our desktop all screwed up. We're going to, I guess I can safely eject the USB here, and we will copy over the next build to it and get on with that, because I'm really excited to see if this actually works now. So this is version 1703, better known as the Creators Update, the first Creators Update, because the Fall Creators Update would come later. Yeah, we will just see if we can get through this process successfully. And now that we're not on the network, it shouldn't ask us to get any updates or anything. Never mind, it's still going to prompt us to download and install updates. So, alright, we'll say not right now. At least the installer looks a little bit different because we changed the mode to high contrast. And we're ready to install. We're going to keep personal files and apps. All looks good. Let's see if it works this time. Well, here's some good news for once, although let me not jinx it because we're not quite at the desktop yet, but we made it to the, like, post setup thing here. It is a little bit different in this build. You see, we got to go through these privacy settings again. So we're going to turn those off and accept. No, we're not going to use Cortana. And sure, we'll leave those as the default apps. That's fine. We got to the desktop. It's retained our icon layout, desktop wallpaper, our wonderful high contrast theme with our start menu pinned exactly the way it was. And yeah, so with this version, there were mostly a lot of under-the-hood improvements. A lot of the visual stuff was in the out-of-box experience. That did get a redesign. However, one thing they did introduce, fittingly with this being called the Creators Update, they introduced the Paint 3D application, which is something that I have used literally one time when I made a video about this update back when it first came out. I have not used it at all since then, so I suppose we can change that and go in here and make a shape. We'll just do like a cube here, and draw, or no, we're doing a spear. Okay, that's fine too. So we can draw that out, and you know, there we go. We've got it drawn off of the canvas. So yeah, this is lagging a little bit here. I know I don't have the proper video driver installed, but I'm just going to leave the default one that Windows installs for us just for the time being, because, I mean, hey, it's working, and we've been able to go through these updates just fine. So we're just going to save this. We'll save it as a project. We'll call it cool, because of course it is. And yeah, they also, according to BetaWiki, introduced the new Windows Defender interface in here. So I believe that's the Windows Defender Security Center. So this became a UWP app. And this is still in Windows today, of course. So yeah, a couple of things there. I think we're going to move on to our next build to keep this show rolling. So this is actually the fall creators update that I was talking about, which is version 1709. We're going to pop in our USB drive. And one of the things that it changed that I won't be able to show you since it was removed from this version is the SAM lock tool, or syskey. So syskey by this point was pretty much used exclusively by tech support scammers to lock victims out of their system and try to get them to pay them a lot of money to, you know, fix the problem. Or if you were scam baiting them and they got mad at you, they would just do this too, as I've seen numerous videos on that. But this is an encryption tool. However, by this point it wasn't really a great encryption tool, and there were better solutions out there, so there wasn't really a need for it anymore. And since it was being abused so much, Microsoft just decided to cut it from the system entirely. So this will not be in the next build, but we're going to hop into File Explorer once again and run setup, and I'm sure the setup is just going to be identical to what we already saw. Ready to install again? Let's do it. Alright, another success. So we are now, what, halfway to being halfway there, I think. We've gone through 5 versions. And yeah, this next one will be the... Oh, and let me just drop all those on the floor. Great. Yeah, we got 9 left. Anyways, it's successfully installed. Maybe we want to make some changes at this point just for the heck of it. Let me maybe add some new stuff to the desktop. It looks like we've got some new applications in here. Apparently the 3D Builder application is no longer included in this build by default if you do a clean install. I'm actually not even seeing it. Oh no, there it is, 3D Builder. Yeah, so this is still installed. I mean, I haven't used any of these Windows 10 like UWP applications. I just never like felt the need to. Although I did use the Xbox app recently because I did subscribe to Game Pass for like a month just to kind of test it out. Ooh, here we go. We can change the high contrast settings to like mess around with all the colors. So let's just make this like as ugly as humanly possible. Oh, that looks fantastic. We're getting like some Windows 3.1 vibes from this. Holy cow. What other options do we have? We can play animations, cursor thickness. We want that to be way high. That's for like the insertion point, by the way, is what it looks like. So now we've got just a really fantastic looking Windows 10 setup here. And we have our new icons on the desktop as well. So... let me go ahead and pop in the... Actually, I'm still writing the next version to the USB drive. But one of the things that it apparently changes is the task view interface. It gets a redesign. So here's the current one. Doesn't look as great as it normally does, but you know, this is where you could go in here and make a new desktop. If you had like Windows opened up in a desktop, you can go and, you know, see all of those windows and switch between them. So this does get changed apparently in the next build, which is version 1803, better known as the April 2018 update because it came out in, well, April 2018. So yeah, Microsoft got really creative with some of these names. So this one's on deck. And we're ready to install again. Let's do it. How many times have I said that? Oh my gosh. So, Windows 10 1803. It is installed and up and running. And I just realized, like, I've not been going into WinVer to actually show you that, that these are the versions I'm saying they are. Not that you can see this very well, but it does say 1803 right there. And something I noticed upon boot up is, like, check out the text here for the icons on the desktop. It's all like screwed up for whatever reason. Maybe that has something to do with the way we have the theme applied. But anyways, this is the new task view interface where you now have the desktop switcher up here, and then if you were to go and open up like this PC, and then if we go back into it, there's how your windows show up. So yeah, this is a new interface for this version. You can see it's kept our lovely theme, and the Microsoft Store is the new name for the Windows Store. It's going to, of course, complain about the lack of the network connection. Also, you'll notice a new icon. Microsoft Edge in this version is added to the desktop by default, and there are also some improvements made to the browser itself. So next up on the list is version 1809, which is the October 2018 update. So the second Windows 10 release to come out in 2018. And by this point, as you could probably tell from the last couple versions, Microsoft just ditched the whole creators update, or, you know, coming up with better names for the releases, and just naming them after the month and the year that they came out, which does make sense, but I mean, hey, it's kind of a little less fun than what they were doing kind of intermittently, at least previously. So we have this, I believe, is the halfway point, right? Because we've got how many left? No, we have one more until the halfway point. We've got 7 over here, so I've got 7 over here. This is the 8th one, so we're going to set that there for now and go into the installer. So after this one, we will be halfway done with going through every version of Windows 10. So let's see if we are successful. We've had a pretty good streak going here so far, so let's hope that continues. Alright, another success. I am definitely feeling good about this. Let's hope I don't regret that. So, we are now running. Let's just get Winver up here, if I can spell that right. Winver. Yeah, we're now running version 1809. And you know, I think I am going to go and just change the theme back over, at least temporarily, to just the regular one, because this is the version of Windows 10 that introduces the dark theme for File Explorer. So we'll go here and just set it back to the Windows 10 theme, and that should get rid of all of these ugly colors for us. And so we can go into File Explorer. We do have to be back in the Settings app to actually change this, but under Colors, there should be an option for Default App Mode Dark. So we change that, and that should also apply on File Explorer, and there we go. Now, I'm not going to keep it like this because, I mean, you can see, like, it just doesn't show up as well here on video, so we'll set it back to light for now. This is probably the most significant visual change that I'm getting from the beta wiki page on this. It looks like our icons have been fixed, by the way. Now, that very well may have been because we, you know, applied a different theme here, but everything looks fine. I'm curious now, what if we go back in and change the theme back to our super awesome one? Yeah, no, they look fine. So that was some weird quirk going on, I guess, with the last version. But yeah, I am gonna just leave it here. I think what we'll do is I will reapply the ugly theme before we go into the upgrade. And, I mean, I don't really see how that's not going to get carried over, but you never know, it could happen. I believe in my original Windows upgrade saga, going from Windows Me to Windows XP, because of the fact that XP introduces the Luna theme and sets that as the default, it actually replaced our Windows Classic theme that we had set. But I don't foresee that happening in Windows 10 here. Apparently, I didn't even know this, but Bing Search is added to Notepad. That's kind of a strange introduction, but yeah, search with Bing is added. Oh, I guess to, like, yeah, you would, you know, highlight stuff and then be able to, yeah, that, let's actually test that out. If I just write something and then we do a, not that, but we highlight it and then edit search with Bing. Oh, and the wallpaper changed there in the background. I must have set it on a slideshow. Test this out. So it is searching Bing. I didn't even know Notepad has that feature. That's hilarious. There's, of course, updates to various Windows programs. Windows Defender is gone in the sense that the name is, but it's been replaced with Windows Security. Of course, it is, you know, the same program. I'm sure it's received some updates as well. But yeah, they dropped the Defender name. Speaking of renamed apps, they also changed the name of the phone companion application to Your Phone, which is another thing that I have literally never used on my Windows 10 system, but this is a thing. And apparently we have in Task Manager now, there's an option to view your power usage. Oh yeah, it's this column right here, which really, that was introduced in 1809? I just never really noticed the addition of it and just kind of thought it was here, you know, since the beginning. But no, that's, I guess it has not been, so there you go. And yeah, I mean, you could see our theme carried over once again. Icon layout and everything is the same. I don't think it added anything else to the desktop, though, like it did with Edge last time. Although it did, look at that. Oh, well, this is probably because of the theme being changed. But it set our This PC icon back to the default one. Let me see if I go in and change this back to the theme, if that's just something that was changed there. And yes, it is. Okay. The most exciting thing about this build, though, is we are now officially at the halfway point. We have made it through 7 versions. Let me get the disks here. 7 versions of Windows 10, and we have 7 more to go. And we're going to get started with version 1903. This is the May 2019 update, the first one to come in 2019. And this is actually a pretty substantial version of Windows 10 because it changes the wallpaper for the first time since the OS came out, and it introduces the light theme for just the entire interface. So we'll definitely apply that, and I think we will change the wallpaper as well because we got to take advantage of that. But yeah, we'll go through and have it do the same checking thing again. This has been the exact same process every single time, so it seems like Microsoft hasn't really been changing these updaters around. Oh, look at that. This is the different version. This is probably the Home Edition. I've been using Pro this whole time. Whoops. Alright, Windows 10 1903 successfully installed. Everything is the same. And yeah, we are looking good. So we're going to hop into the display settings here, or rather the personalization panel. And I'm going to change the theme temporarily back over to just the default Windows one. And by that I mean the light version of the default Windows one. So this will give us the new wallpaper. So there we go. Here is the light theme. I'm sure you guys are very familiar with this, but yeah, 1903 is when it was first introduced. A couple other quick things that I read on the page. They made some changes to the UWP settings application, the design and layout of some of these options in here. And they also gave Windows the ability to set automatic active hours based on your usage for, you know, making sure that Windows updates do not automatically install while you're using the system. So that's a nice inclusion. Of course, it would have been nice to just have things the way they were before, where they weren't forced automatically. And I think I'm actually going to just leave this theme applied, at least for now. We may set it back to the wacky one later on, but I kind of feel like we're in the home stretch. I mean, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, maybe not. It feels like we're in the home stretch. We've got 6 more versions to go through, and 1909, which is the next release, is not terribly exciting in terms of visual changes. I mean, this one, really the main visual change is the new wallpaper and the light theme. There's not really a whole lot in 1909, so I feel like we're kind of getting to the point of the video where I'm going to be doing more cuts and stuff and kind of just trying to speed things along a little bit for you guys. We'll just see how things go. I'm writing the 1909 image to the USB right now. Let's do it. All right. Another success, and we're pretty much going to jump right into the next build because there's actually literally not anything to talk about in this release. BetaWiki outright says that the version does not differ much from its predecessor, and it was actually pushed out as a cumulative update to 1903. However, I think I am going to go back on what I said earlier. I would like to apply our ugly, theme because it just kind of feels off now having it proper. Although I will say this huge insertion point anytime you select the text box is pretty funny. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and set our best theme back up here. There we go. That's a lot better. So we're going to hop into File Explorer and let's just start this next setup. So the next release is 2004. Probably better known as the May 2020 update. So again, our setup process here is identical. All looks good. Let's go. All right, another successful install. We are running version 2004 here, and I realized I forgot to put this DVD on deck, so to speak. So we're just gonna move that over here, and that means we have only 4 versions of Windows 10 to upgrade through. And here's the thing that I'm gonna do. According to BetaWiki, these last 4 versions aren't actually that major in terms of the various changes that were made to it. There was certainly under the hood stuff and some more minor visual changes, but nothing that's going to be really exciting to showcase on video. And well, that being said, there's not really a whole lot in this build either, but I'm assuming it's more so than these last four. A couple of things I want to mention. Windows subsystem for Linux v2 was introduced in this build, and Microsoft also allowed you to rename virtual desktops now. So if we go in here, we can, name this whatever the heck we want. And why don't we just name all of these so that, we'll see if those changes will carry over, which I'm sure that they will. I don't see why not. I'm also noticing that these icons on the desktop, we have some that have just defaulted to the default blank one, which is interesting. The connect one, do these shortcuts just not work anymore? Are they just gone? That didn't open anything. What about messaging? You see, these apps could have been, I think the messaging, that's still in here, right? Maybe not. Maybe these apps did get removed at some point. We still have the contact support thing has been the, consistent one that has just shown that blank icon. But like Xbox, this still has to be on here. Maybe it's just that it was, given a new version and the location of it changed. Or no, there it is launching. I don't know. Yeah, it just, I guess it broke some of the, oh wait, there we go. Okay, it just, maybe you have to run it or something like to re-render the icon. Let's try messaging again. I think this might just have been completely removed. But connect, maps, get office. Well, there's maps opening up. There's the get office thing. And let's see if I hit refresh here. And yeah, there we go. Now those icons are showing up. So yeah, you just have to run them, I guess, to fix that problem. But anyway, like I was saying, it sounds like these last four builds just are not going to be that interesting to talk about in terms of, the visual changes that were made to them. And it makes sense because around this time, Microsoft started shifting focus onto developing Windows 11. So Windows 10 was kind of put on the back burner a little bit, and it was mainly given bug fixes and security improvements and that sort of thing. Yes, there were definitely some changes made, but like I was saying, just not stuff that's really super interesting to talk about. So instead of having you guys watch me do this 4 more times, I'm just gonna kind of do a jump cut here and skip to either us getting 22H2, the latest version, installed, or if something gets screwed up along the way, which I'm hoping will not happen. And I do promise I'm actually going to go through these 4. I'm not just going to jump directly to 22H2 from here, because I want to do this the right way. So let's hope things go right for once. Alright, we did it. So we've got the system running 22H2 now, the latest version of Windows 10, and we were able to get upgraded to this version with no problems whatsoever. Everything worked just fine, and it was wonderful. Yeah, of course I'm kidding. So we did have one problem with version 20H2, where for whatever reason, it was not allowing me to upgrade to a later version. And I tried both 21H1, the version that came right after it, and 21H2, trying to skip a version. And both times in the installer, it would not allow me to choose the keep files and apps setting. I had to choose nothing, and it gave an error saying that it just wasn't able to do the upgrade. I tried a few troubleshooting methods but couldn't get anything to work, so I had to actually revert back to 2004, and then I was able to skip over 20H2, go to 21H1, and then continue on the upgrade from there. So that means through this whole process we did encounter 2 issues. The one at the beginning where we were getting caught in that boot loop and I had to just do a clean install from the build I was currently on at that point, and then this whole thing. So not a full upgrade run from start to finish, but hey, I'll take what I can get. And honestly, this video is not nearly as long as I thought it was going to be. And yes, I mean, I know I did just basically skip over recording the last 4 versions here. But also, I just really feel like Windows 10, and maybe this is just like nostalgia bias or whatever, but it just doesn't really feel like that exciting of a Windows version to explore how it changed from start to finish. Whereas with something like Windows XP or Vista, the beginning and end look so different. I mean, the early Whistler builds in XP versus the final RTM release are like 2 completely different operating systems, and it's really cool to see how it changed and kind of gradually became the final release of XP over all those builds. With Windows 10 here, it pretty much looks exactly the same in the original build and in 22H2 here. Yes, of course, there are different applications, there's different UI elements, there are, minor differences between the two. Maybe some would even consider them major differences, but I don't know, for me personally, it just doesn't seem as exciting. So I did kind of find myself sort of, being like, okay, here's a couple things and let's just move on to the next one because there's not really a whole lot to talk about. And I know I've probably said that a lot. And if you notice here on the desktop, we did actually have an icon layout reset happen when we upgraded this version for whatever reason. So it resized the icons, because I did at one point make them the large one, so it kind of reset them to the default size and snapped them all to the left side here. So it didn't technically keep our settings exactly as they were in the few previous builds. And this did happen in 22H2. On the previous version, they were exactly the same as they were in the few previous builds prior to that. So yeah, but the theme here is still applied. Our start menu layout is still the same. We've got all the same things pinned to the taskbar. If we go into File Explorer, we should have the drive still named Win10 Upgrade Saga 2. So, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video for what it was. That is pretty much going to wrap it up for yet another iteration of the Windows Upgrade Saga. If you enjoyed this one, if you found it interesting, if you watched all the way to the end, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And be sure to give this video a thumbs up, get subscribed, maybe consider becoming a patron or a channel member to get early and sponsor-free access to my future videos before anybody else. But either way, I just want to thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.
Why choose a sleep?
These days, Google is known for Chrome OS and Android, but have you ever heard of aGINA, a Linux distro based on Ubuntu that incorporated a lot of Google apps and services? I hadn't either until a viewer sent me an email about it recently, and perhaps the most interesting thing about it is it wasn't actually made by Google. Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. So aGINA was just a little blip on the Linux radar that sprung up in 2007 and aimed to be an operating system centered around Web 2.0. So you've got shortcuts to Gmail, Google Calendar, Docs, Maps, YouTube, Blogger, a lot of Google stuff. But the G in aGINA actually stands for good. Although I think it's kind of meant to associate it with Google without, making it seem like it was made by them. And this is not to be confused with Google's internal use Linux distro called Ubuntu, which was later replaced by gLinux. gOS was only around for a couple of years, with the latest version being released in early 2009. So in today's episode, I'm going to take you through a few versions of this distro, and we'll explore how it changed over its very short lifespan. And if you want to take a look at these yourself, you can download the ISOs from archiveos.org. They've got a page over here with some information about it, and they do have a handful of ISOs available. Not all of them, but you've got the first release, the very last release, and a couple in between. We're going to go through all of these for today, of course starting with the initial release, version 1.0.1. But the really cool thing is you weren't able to just download this from the website. There was also a computer sold at Walmart that came pre-installed with it. At the time, the tech press started calling this the Google PC, or the almost Google PC, and this is actually what the viewer who first emailed me about this was mainly talking about. This was a sub $200 computer that sold very, very quickly. According to this Desktop Linux article, Walmart bought 10,000 of them, released it on November 1st, and by the 15th, they were already sold out. But they also had a version that shipped with Windows Vista that had double the RAM and apparently a much faster processor. I mean, 1.5 gigahertz from 1.5 megahertz? You gotta be kidding me. Yeah, of course, this is a lovely typo here. But yeah, the Windows Vista one shipped for around $100 more. And you can see it is a little bit of a different design as well, but you still got, a set of speakers and a keyboard and mouse with it, no monitor included. But, $200, not even, for a whole desktop computer was pretty fantastic. Both of these were manufactured by a company called Everix, who would later go on to make a couple of laptops and even a mini PC that also ran gOS. So this is one of those rare Linux distros that actually had a line of hardware to go along with it. And if I can ever track one of those machines down, you bet I'm going to make a video on it. But for now, let's dive into the operating system itself. So the first version of GOS was based on Ubuntu 7.10, and it was released on November 1st, 2007. And it came on a live CD. I've already gone through the installation process, but it was pretty much identical to what you would see on a regular install of Ubuntu that was available at this time. However, the desktop interface itself is very different. It utilizes the Enlightenment window manager as opposed to GNOME. And you see we have a dock down here, we got your icons right here, a Google search bar at the top right, and then what look like a couple widgets here on the sidebar. This is a clock, and this is just your network status indicator. It shows your current network connection and your IP address there. And with this whole operating system being focused around Web 2.0, the vast majority of these shortcuts in the dock just open up various websites. So you've got Gmail, Meebo, which will later be acquired by Google, Google News, Calendar, Maps, Google Docs and Spreadsheets, Google Product Search. And then you have some non-Google things like Facebook, you got Wikipedia, Skype. Although you do have a couple of desktop applications in the dock as well. You have a movie player and Rhythmbox. Tech support opens up a web browser. I mean, you can see that Google is the primary focus of this entire operating system. Though, there is this little menu here on the left side. You can open that up, go into applications. And there is a good selection of apps in here, even some GNOME applications, especially under games here. But you've also got things like GIMP, you've got OpenOffice, you got the rest of the suite here under the Office tab. You've got a CD/DVD writer. Internet, you can see, is one of the larger categories, mostly Google stuff in here. All this is pretty much pinned to the dock with the exception of Mozilla Thunderbird and the Pigeon Instant Messenger. And this menu can also be accessed just by left-clicking on the desktop, and you can also right-click to get access to your favorites menu, which is also in this menu here in just the regular left-click menu. So this can be changed if you go into configuration. And as you'll see, like when we open up Windows and stuff, the theme they've got applied here is very, very Mac-like. My immediate thought was, oh, this is just Aqua with some green accents. I mean, it is a little bit different, obviously, but it definitely reminds me of that. Under menus and favorites menus where you get access to be able to change everything in there. So if I want to just, remove Facebook and Blogger and add maybe, let's see, database, you got openoffice.org, we can add that. Hit OK, close out of it, and now if you right-click, there you go. So we can open up that right from there if we want to. There is also a file browser, not surprisingly. We can make this a little bit larger here. Again, the icons and everything just kind of give off a macOS vibe to me. But you can get access to your home directory from here. So it's not strictly something like, the early Chrome OS versions where it was like just the web browser and you couldn't really access, I mean, you could, but it wasn't really easy to access the, file system and all that. It kind of feels almost like the later versions of Chrome OS, just to make that comparison again, where you now have more of a traditional desktop interface, which I think is pretty cool. You got your Google search bar up here. Let's go ahead and do a search for Michael MJD. And of course, this is, this browser is so out of date that it's not even going to be able to display really anything properly. Now this, it looks like it opens up in a embedded browser window here. This is something that we will see in later versions of GOS, but it's not the case when you open up like Gmail and stuff from down here. These all just open up in regular Firefox tabs. Also, the version of Firefox, if you're curious, is version 2.0.0.8. I imagine probably the latest version for Linux that was available when this thing was released.
Working across teams is tough, but Asana helps you handle it. Asana AI can spot roadblocks and assign work to keep everything on track. That's how work gets handled. Visit us at asana.com.
Southwest morning begins now.
We need to sit together!
Oh no. Privacy.
I thought you checked us in last night.
Well, I was a minute late.
I am not sitting in a middle seat! Get out of the way!
Let's go! Let's go!
Now these widgets over here on the right side actually work through the same program that the dock is using, but the dock is actually like one widget, and then you've got a separate widget for the menu over here, and this can all be configured in the configuration, obviously, under, I believe it is Windows, no, it's under extensions. Yeah, you got shelves here. So shelf 1 is the dock, shelf 8 are the widgets on the side, so we'll configure the widgets, configure contents, and you can add, whatever else you want. So, I mean, right now you've got the network indicator thing, you've got the clock, you can add the battery indicator, which of course isn't going to really matter for us. You've got a CPU gauge there, a temperature, so we can add all that. Go ahead and apply. Oh, I just actually changed the size of them there, apparently. Actually, how did I just change the sizing of them? I didn't want to do that. And the layout, yeah, this moves it up there, obviously, and now we can't... Okay, we gotta just, I guess, go in here and manually set it back to there. And then the size, yeah, we want this to be like much larger than it was. Okay, there we go. That looks a lot better. So you got some advanced settings. It's just that like huge here as a size was actually a lot smaller than what it was. So we can close out of that. Now shelf 1, if we go into configure and contents, you can see that you've got start, iBar, and iBox. iBar is the dock. Under applications, you've got iBar applications, and then this is where you can go in and we could remove Gmail and Meebo if you want to, and now they will be gone. But yeah, a lot of customizability, and we haven't even gotten into the theme yet, by the way. You can go in here and change that. I haven't actually looked to see what these other themes look like, but here's Bling. So that totally changed the... Oh, wow. Okay, yeah, the menus are like way different now. Look at that. With this like effect going on when you hover over everything. The spacer here just looks really off. And yeah, I mean, the icon stayed the same. The Google search bar up here stayed the same. So now that kind of looks out of place. I don't even know, like, was this theme supposed to be in here? I feel like it wasn't because it just doesn't go with anything that they have. We'll just go ahead and change it back. It looks like GOS 2 is probably just the same thing as the default theme. Yeah, I mean, this looks exactly the same. It's probably just the default theme is like a separate entry in here. So there you go. And also one other thing, this did support multiple desktops. You can go here under desktop, virtual, configure virtual desktops. We could add another one if we want to. And then you can change desktops by just going in here and changing over to desktop 1, and you see it takes the search bar away. I would imagine that a lot of this stuff, like if we want to on desktop 1 here, get rid of this and then switch back over to desktop 0. Oh no, that actually takes effect across both of them. Okay, so that's interesting. But yeah, it supported virtual desktops. And honestly, like, there's just a lot of customizability in this operating system, which I really like. So that is the very first version. Our next release, this happened in early 2008. And this is actually a beta version of 2.0. It still uses the Enlightenment desktop window manager, but it changed some elements around. So you can see we have a new dock down here, definitely a more macOS-like dock with the zoom in animation as you hover over everything. There is a virtual desktop switcher up here at the top, and the gadgets in the search bar are gone, at least by default. What has not changed, though, is the dock still has a bunch of Google stuff pinned to it, although you do have a shortcut to box.net now, and new icons for the movie and music player, though they are the same applications that were in the previous version. However, they did remove that little shortcut that would open up this menu from the dock, so now you have to just left-click on the desktop to get to it. You can also right-click to get to your favorites menu. And this one, admittedly, I did not mess around with as much as I did the previous version, so I'm curious to go in here and see, like, if we can modify the dock here, which it looks like we can. So this is iTask NG now, and we can change the zoom range and the zoom duration. We can change, yeah, here's the icon size, so we can increase the size of the dock. We can have it up top or maybe to the right if we want to. Although on the right, it doesn't actually show everything. We'd have to change the icon size, but we'll have it at the bottom. You can also add a taskbar because there's not one by default. So if we want to add one to, you know, like be able to see what applications are open, like if we are in Firefox here, we'll just cancel all this stuff and just resize the window. You can see there's no like indicator in here at all that Firefox is running, but if we add a taskbar, you can see over here, this is our list of running applications. And let's see if we can change this. Like, can we change just that over here? No, that moves the whole thing. So can you not, I guess you can't have the taskbar be like just on the top of the screen or, you know, in a separate location than the dock. It looks like it's attached to it. But admittedly, you don't really need a taskbar because 90% of what you're going to be doing is just in Firefox, because all these shortcuts still, like if you go to YouTube, it opens up Firefox. Oh, we got an enlightenment error. This is very bad. You got this like early classic Mac OS looking error message here. I guess we'll say recover. Yeah, again, this was a beta, so you know there's bound to be bugs and stuff in it. So that's how you change the dock. Can we like drag stuff off the dock? Like, okay, yeah, we can do that. So just like Mac OS, you can get rid of stuff. Can we add things to the dock? I don't think we can. Some things that remain are the file manager. So you've got this this same thing going on. We can go into aGINA, and you got your same icons and everything there. I'm actually not sure if the widgets that we saw over there on the right in the previous version are still here, but let's go into configuration and find out. Now the settings menu here is pretty much identical to what we saw before. It's going to be under, I believe, what was it, menus or no, extensions. So here's shelves. I imagine like this is probably on a shelf down here. Like let's see what this is. So we've got pager. That's probably the top thing up here. Like, let's go ahead and remove that. Yeah. So that's a shelf up there. Shelf number 2 maybe is the clock over here. Yep. And so shelf 3 is going to be the dock, which is just going to contain like a single, yeah, iBox. So that's this is the dock again, the icon box gadget. So we can add a new one. And go into here, configure. We'll move it over here to, or actually I want to go to, where's the advanced configuration? Yeah, we'll move it over here and then go into contents. It's got the pager and the iBox again, but we don't have as many gadgets to add. So we've got the clock, which I guess is just, I think, yeah, that's the same thing that was up here. It's just not going to really show properly now because it's on the side and it doesn't like adjust orientation automatically. And then you've got this navigation thing. You've got EFM path. Let's maybe move this to the top so that everything displays properly. And that is a lot of white space, like my gosh. But yeah, it looks like, yeah, these are just navigation buttons. I think we saw those in the file manager too. Yeah, that's exactly what they are. So I don't think these do anything just on the desktop, but I guess maybe the file manager is utilizing the shelves to display this properly. That's actually interesting. In fact, yeah, you can see it's overlapped on top of the address bar, but it doesn't look like you've got as many gadgets as you did before. However, gadgets will make a reappearance in a later release. Not the next one though, but oh boy, did the next one really change up the formula.
Code review with Codex feels like a safety net where I know it'll catch critical bugs and even catch some of my smaller mistakes.
So this right here is version 2.9, or the Space release that came out in April of 2008. And as you can see, it gets a whole UI redesign. The dock is different, the wallpaper is different, we have a menu bar now. It uses GNOME as the desktop environment, so you can no longer like left click on the desktop to get to that menu. Right clicking is now just a regular context menu. But the really bizarre thing about this one is you might be able to tell from some of these icons, this is a MySpace centered release of GOS. So hey, I guess if you ever thought it would be cool if there was a MySpace focused operating system, well, there was one. So if you go in here, you've got all these shortcuts to various MySpace pages. You've got MySpace news here under this category. You can see you've got like a Mac OS X stacks thing going on with all of these shortcuts down here now. And you do still have all of the Google stuff in here that we had before. It's just not as prevalent now. But to get to like the whole list, you have to go up in here to applications, internet, and then here's all the rest of the Google stuff. Though you can see most of them do not have icons like they did before. So that's interesting. You do still have your list of games in here. We're slowly adding more and more programs, so there are some things in here you didn't have before. Like now you've got a sound recorder and sound juicer CD extractor and this audio CD creator. You still have OpenOffice, but they have definitely doubled down on making the thing look like Mac OS X. I mean, even this music icon here looks like the iTunes icon. As we open up stuff, like if I go to Firefox here, I mean, this theme is so Mac OS like it's not even funny. I mean, they've really done a good job at mimicking that. If this was even like their theme that they created, it could have just been something that they just downloaded and used. But I mean, like even these scroll bars here look very Aqua. Also, with the switch over to GNOME, they changed the file browser as well over to Nautilus, which is just a much better inclusion. I think that the previous one was kind of lame and, you know, a little bit funky at times just using it. This is a more traditional looking file browser. You got a sidebar. It's a much larger window by default. And you can see here in the dock, there is now a taskbar built into it. So we've got this window here. Since I've got the file browser opened, I can minimize it to the dock. Though there's not a maximizing animation, it just comes back up, but there is that little one for minimizing. We can, of course, maximize the window. We can close it from up here. You've got your like little traffic lights, you know, window controls, though they all just are the same color. Again, I'm just not over how much that this looks like macOS 10. That's really the look they were going for, I guess. But where it differs is like the menu bar up here is not really a menu bar. I mean, yeah, you can get access to this main menu here, but all of the menus for the different applications you're in are still contained within those windows, so nothing shows up here. And then you do have a system tray up here with your calendar and your volume controls. There's a search function and your network status there. I have not actually gone in to see if there are any different themes in here, so let's see. There are. Okay, so we've got, although some of these just look like regular looking GNOME themes. In fact, yeah, this right here is just the regular Ubuntu theme, so we can change over to that if we want to. And you see that just really changes the design. Although did it change the trash icon? I think it did. Yes, it did. Okay, so yeah, some of the icons do change. But, you know, this dock here is like its own separate thing. The menu bar up here does not change at all either, except for the system tray, of course. But this is just their GOS theme, which is, although there is, okay, there's two of them. Are these any different? I don't think they are. They look exactly the same. But I just can't get over the MySpace-centered aspect of this. I mean, it's cool, I guess, if you used MySpace a lot and wanted to really, you know, have a system themed around that where you just had easy access to the various, you know, parts of the website. But it just really seems way out of left field considering that they were just really Google focused prior to that. And they became Google focused again after this, because version 3.1, the final release from early 2009, goes back to the way that things were in the earlier two versions, although you can see that gadgets make a reappearance. However, these are now Google gadgets that you could have gotten through Google Desktop, which I made a video on back in like 2020, I think. So there's a lot more that you can choose from. This also utilizes GNOME instead of Enlightenment, so we have your menu bar up here, you have your regular context menu, and the dock has also changed once again. This looks more like it did back in the 2.0 beta version.